Time now for All Things Gators, All Things Orange and Blue. That's Dan Hicken. I'm Frank Frangie. What's up, Hick?
Frank, first, thank you to Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, the best orthopedic specialists in the First Coast area, se-ortho.com for all your orthopedic needs. There is no joy in Gainesville. The mighty Gators have struck out. I'm going to dive into two specific things that bother me today most.
Okay.
As we watch the Gators, and then you can react. I want to get your thought process. And I want to say right off the rip, I'm not advocating for anyone to lose their jobs, get fired, whatever. I'm not. Okay. But I do notice that great coaches, Frank, in college, in year two, do things. Witness what's happening in Knoxville right now. Okay. So that's the basis of how I start things. But I was very concerned with Billy Napier closing into halftime on Saturday night. I don't understand how you can have, first off, scared money don't make money is the mantra. We're in a shootout, so we got to score. We know LSU's getting the ball to start the second half. It's 28-21 Tigers. It's 1st and 10 at the Florida 47 with 1:30 and 2 timeouts. That's an eternity in college football. And you let the clock run out. That, I want to start there, and I want to get your opinion on that because the opposite happened at Tennessee, and he was wrong there too. And so I'm trying to get a feel for what, and I didn't like his explanation after the game either, quite frankly. So what say you about that?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you prefaced it with, we're not calling for anybody to lose their job.
No.
Because I think we both like the fact that Billy Napier is going to build something special in Gainesville. And I haven't wavered from that one bit.
Right.
Having said that, it's inexcusable and it's inexplicable. I mean, in today's day and age of offensive football, particularly when you weren't going to stop them at all.
Right. It wasn't like it was 6-3.
Right. Your only chance is to keep up. He was afraid to give them the ball back because he didn't want them to score and then score again to start the third quarter. No, you got to attack.
Yeah.
It showed a clear lack of confidence in his team. I mean, he's a smart guy. He knows football. He's a good coach.
Yeah.
So when a good, smart guy makes that decision, now some guys aren't as good when the clock's ticking down and how do they use their timeouts, and maybe he won't be good at that. I don't know. Some guys aren't. But there's no, I was screaming at the TV the same way I think you were.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
What I mean, there's no explaining that.
No.
You have 3 timeouts left. You have to find a way. You take shot after shot after shot. And if you turn it over to them and they score then and score again, so be it.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. It was inexplicable to me. I totally 100% agree with that.
I mean, worst case, you can punt the dang ball. I
Right.
mean, if you don't get a first down, you're at midfield. Okay.
Right.
Second issue. And I don't agree with everybody on this. Is a mix, so I want to get your opinion because you have been an advocate of Hick. The defense ain't going to get any better. It's not very good, right? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but something along those lines.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah. And I agree to a point. But Frank, I mean, the Dexter kid's going to play on Sundays. Ventrell Miller is what you dream of having as a college linebacker, the leadership, the ability, the way he runs sideline to sideline. Marshall was a highly coveted cornerback out of Miami. There's 3 off the top of my head that are good football players. Frank, it can't all be the players. Okay. They can't be this bad. There's something going on either in the scheme, the execution, the whatever, but it is not all the players. Agree or disagree?
I'm in between. I mean, it's a blanket. If your blanket statement is it's not entirely the players, I agree. Okay. Right. But because it's not black and white, but it's mostly the players, Dan. I mean, we can't, I mean, Todd, we were saying the same thing about Todd Grantham, who had been a very good coordinator in the past. All of a sudden, we all decided he couldn't coach anymore last year when they started losing all their games.
Right.
Now here comes this guy, Patrick Toney, who's very coveted and did a good job at Louisiana. Now we're deciding he can't coach anymore. But the bottom line is they don't have a lot of good players. You can cherry pick a handful of guys on East Carolina's team that are going to be in the league. But the reality is it's enough. The defensive front, those front 7 guys have to attack. And now I'm not so sure the cornerbacks are good either. That's the one spot I thought they were decent. You have got to be able to harass the opponent They're just really not very good on defense. Now that doesn't mean that they shouldn't try some different stuff.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're coaching them great. I'm not saying, man, they're great coaches, and Bill Belichick couldn't win with this group either. I'm not saying that.
Frank,
but
they are the worst. You saw the stat. They are the worst third down defense. There's 131 on the list. They're number 131 in the country.
Is that not
conversions?
Good? Is that bad?
Frank, there's no way.
So you're saying like 128 would be better?
Frank,
that'd be better.
No way the University of Florida can be that bad. Frank, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 12, just like Missouri, all over again.
Well, you're right,
Frank,
and you're right.
Come on.
You're right. I hear you, and you're right. What you're saying is it's unlikely that the other 30 all have better defensive. The other 130 all have better defensive players. I agree with you. It's all right now. You're right. They don't have a good plan, but I don't think they have many good players over there either. I think it's kind of in between the two. But they've got to get better players up front. They've got to get better defensive players. I mean, but you're right. It is, and they don't. Here's what's happened. The players aren't very good, and the coaches don't know what to do because the players aren't very good. Yeah. It's hard when the other guys have better players than you. But LSU's not very good on offense.
Frank, how many did they score against Tennessee the week before?
13.
13.
Yeah, and they're not very good. I've watched they weren't very good against FSU. The handful of times I've watched them, they're not very good on offense.
Jaden Daniels was better than Chase Daniels and Dexter Daniels and every other Daniels I've ever seen. What the hell?
We turned him into a Heisman Trophy winner. And I agree with you. So the defense is lousy, and I've always believed this, not just about this. With all due respect to Mickey Andrews, the great FSU coordinator, and to Brett Venables and all these guys who have known for being good coordinators, I think defense is about who you have out there. Offense can be scheme and tempo because you control the game with offense. You can control the pattern. Defense is who you have. I just believe that, and it's not because of this year. I've always believed defense is mostly, but no, you're right. Your point's fair. If they're 131st in the nation in third down, that's probably coaching too. But I think defense is mostly about who you have out there. I think that. And listen, I think Gervon Dexter will be in the league. I don't think he's going to be a star in the league.
Yeah.
I think Ventrell Miller's a good college player that's going to get drafted in the 5th round.
Yeah.
And might make a team.
I hear you.
But I don't think they have a lot of good players back there. But it's hard to watch. It was hard. But look, I got other concerns too. You should. Believe me, we all know the defense is terrible. There's no, you can break that down any way you want to.
I mean, terrible.
Worst Florida defense of our lifetimes, would you say?
I mean, we've had this conversation way too many times in the last 5 years, man. But I can remember Champ's defense going up to Tuscaloosa and giving up more yards in the history of Florida football than any other game. And then somebody on Twitter asked me Saturday night, is this the worst Gator defensive performance you've ever seen? Well, I would say, yeah, but I remember last year against LSU when they ran the same play and ran for 300 plus yards.
Yeah. And I'll say this, and I'm not making excuses, but the 2022 bad defense is worse than the 1992 bad defense because there's more offense and everybody knows how to throw it now. So the yards are going to be more egregious, but that doesn't change it. The fact is they're not very good on defense. I think my honest opinion, I'm not saying that we have these great coaches and they're just messing up these good players. Yeah. I'm not saying this, but I don't think they've got very many good players. I mean, again, you just made the point. We said the same thing last year, Dan, and these coaches weren't there.
No.
So think about what you just said. If we said the exact same thing last year,
don't ruin my theory. Stop ruining my theory.
But we said the same thing. We said the exact same thing last year with different coaches. So it's the players. It's more the players, and that's the validation. I'm glad you said that because I hadn't thought about that. But that's the proof is we said the same thing last year. So, but let me give you my other concern. Okay, we know the defense is bad.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to say this. It's not going to be very popular, but we're a podcast. We're supposed to say what we think.
Yeah.
I am worried that Anthony Richardson is not a good quarterback. He's a brilliant athlete. He's a magnificent kid. He's such a good teammate, and I'm rooting really hard for him because there's everything about him is good, from family to how hard he works to the way he supported Emory Jones last year. You can't find anybody that doesn't think he's a wonderful kid. But in this day and age, in 2022, you have to have a really good, efficient passing game. I'm watching Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, and I'm watching Keaton Slovis at Pitt, and I'm watching all these guys that have a really efficient passing games. And I think Anthony's not an accurate passer. I don't think he has touch. I don't think he has accuracy. I don't sense the fact that he picks the right guy. He's a wonderful kid and a brilliant athlete. But I don't know that he's a big time quarterback. And again, I hate saying that because I'm rooting so hard for the kid, but I got to tell you what I think,
Yeah.
Do you agree with me or disagree with me? Am I way off there?
I don't think you're way off, but I think he's more than capable of winning at Florida.
Okay.
The fourth down rocket that he threw by Justin Shorter is one that stands out. That was not that impressive. But I think if you, again, and we'll never know the truth behind this, but when you go 81 yards running the football on one play and break 5 tackles along the way, and you don't have in your arsenal that play, and it's only just a scramble play.
Agree.
And he was a more willing runner on Saturday night, but still there are, again, to the point that if I bring a guy in motion, Frank, and I see they're in man defense 3 or 4 times a game, I'm saying vertical, and everybody goes. And then once Anthony gets through the first wave, he's got 20 yards in his back pocket every time, and he may go 80. So until they accept that and run him,
they got to run him more.
You got to.
Nobody debates that. Then they got to run him more.
But ultimately, the quarterback has to throw the ball, and if he can't make the throws in crunch time, then that's certainly a problem. And that's kind of more where you're coming from on this. I'm not ready to say that yet, but it's fair to be concerned. Sure.
Yeah, and I'm not saying get rid of the guy and find another guy to play. I'm not there. I'm just saying, and it's not just crunch time.
Right.
In this day and age. Right. Quarterbacks have to have that 22 for 28 for 312-yard game.
Yeah.
I don't think that's in there with him. Yeah. I think what I do think's in there is a beautiful 80-yard bomb or a wonderful 80-yard run where he breaks 8 tackles and outruns the cornerbacks. I think that's in there. But in this day and age, you look around, people are winning with efficient passing game. People are winning because they're efficient in the passing game. That Tennessee-Alabama game, my goodness. I'm not saying Anthony Richardson, that's 2 of the best quarterbacks in the country. I'm not saying he should be that.
Right.
But the gap between those guys as passers and him is really significant. And I think Billy Napier's in a spot where he doesn't know what to do. His backups aren't ready.
No.
Anthony Richardson has to be the guy. He's doing his best to find things he can. I agree with you though. I'd run it. They did run it more this year. They made him more of a runner. And you're right. They didn't lose the game because of offense, by the way. They scored 35 points. They lost the game because their defense is abysmal. And I understand that. I'm just saying if his big picture, all of it doesn't add up. And by the way, they're 4-3, not 1-6. I got to be correct. I don't want to lose sight of that either.
Yeah.
But I just thought.
Well, you might as well go ahead and say it now, Frank. They're 4-4.
Correct. And they're obviously 4-4. And then they go to Texas A&M, Dan, and I'm afraid they're going to be 4-5.
They might be. They very well could be.
I thought going into LSU was a statement game for both teams. It was clear when that game ended, even though I thought the call on Dexter was crap at the end. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. And if they don't call that, then Florida's got a chance to tie the game late. But I walked away thinking LSU's way better. Yeah. And it bothered me that I walked away thinking LSU's way better.
That's 10 out of 13 for LSU, by the way.
Right. But LSU now shouldn't be way better. Because this LSU team isn't that good. Alabama's going to beat them. Ole Miss is going to be. They're not that good. Okay, right. So this LSU team that's not that good was even though the game was close, felt way better than Florida, and that is a concern.
Which leads me to this question, Frank. You got 14 teams in the SEC. If you had to put Florida in a power poll, you got to have them down there at 10 or 11, man.
Yeah, we did this on my radio show the other day. We figured about 9th.
Yeah,
about 9th.
You're being kind.
And if they'd have won that game, though, you'd have had them 5th.
Yes.
That's the thing. That's how much that game mattered. So no, they've got to get better players on defense. And by the way, you're the recruiting beat reporter for the podcast.
Yes, thank you.
If they didn't mess it up by losing to LSU, it looks like they're about to change the world with some of these commitments. Right?
Doing a great job. They got 2 more last week, Frank, and
big time.
They're if they can close strongly, they could ease up right in that top 5 area, man, which would be unbelievable in his first year, and would set them up with a good group of kids coming in. So yeah, very excited about that part of it.
There's two ways to win. There's the ways everybody wins, and we have this talk every week.
Mhm.
The way everybody wins now, the way Urban won, the way Kirby and Dabo and Saban are winning now. I just got more 5 stars than you do, and that's how.
Yep.
There's also the way Spurrier used to win, which is how Tennessee's now winning.
Yep.
Tennessee doesn't have more 5 stars than anybody, okay? But they're winning. They're winning with offense that you can't figure out how to stop, which is how Spurrier won. Okay, so there's not much of that left anymore. But Tennessee's the throwback to the old Florida. I promise you, you do your 5-star list. Tennessee's ranked 3rd this week. I bet you there's 8 teams under them that have more 5-star. You agree with that?
Yeah,
there's got to be. But they're doing it with processing and how you play offense and the way. And I worry that that's not where Florida's going to get to. Now again, they didn't do it last year. It took a year to get
right.
going like that. But I think, let me get back to the passer, the roughing the passer.
Okay,
I cannot say this strongly enough.
Mm-hmm.
In pro football and college football, the new thing now not only is protect the passer, but if a 300-pound guy falls on top of your quarterback, that must be roughing. Okay, yeah. We saw it with Chris Jones in the NFL. What Gervon Dexter did was not roughing.
Right.
Roughing that rule is in place to prevent a player from picking the quarterback up, slamming him to the ground, and then purposely landing on top of him, where they make it look like a form tackle, but it really is a intentional way to injure the quarterback. And we had to get rid of that, and I'm glad we did. But it is not supposed to be in play for a guy playing really hard, running as hard as he can, trying to tackle the quarterback, who just inadvertently lands on him because there was nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
That was a bad call. It was over officiated. And I hear some people disagree with me on that. Even Gator Nation, some people say you got to call it. What did you think?
You know what? It's funny because I kind of do disagree with you. Just in the respect of watching the game, I just ended up going, oh, hell, this is bad timing. I think in full motion speed, it's just Dexter didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing he can do. He's finishing a play. He's fine. He didn't drive him into the ground. Right. He landed right on top of him, and the ref's sitting there watching that particular play. And on the one play of the 100 LSU offensive plays that we make a play on, we have the bad luck, I thought.
Well, okay.
I couldn't sit there. I just couldn't, man. And I can't incorporate the NFL into it. Listen, helmet to helmet stuff confuses me. There's a lot that confuses me. And maybe we need to define plays better. Like you said, like I tell you, another one that drives me nuts. It's a catch if it's on the field of play, but if it's in the end zone, you have to finish it and catch it, not dare bobble it a smidge, or it's not. I mean, it's crazy. So, but I thought I didn't quibble that much, Frank. I really didn't. I like your opinion better because I wanted that ball and I would have liked to see what we could have done. But we didn't get that opportunity.
But here's what's going to happen with the rule is now players are going to, the only way to avoid that would be to pull up before you got to it.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Well, but that's what's going to happen.
I know. I think the coaches will say, I'd rather take the penalty most of the time,
because that's right. Because players are going to have to slow down before. The only way to avoid that,
I agree.
The only way would be to slow down before you get there. Because once you're running full speed, there's nowhere else to go.
He was in a chute. He's on top of him. He can't all of a sudden try to turn. I mean, you just can't.
And a referee's got to know that. Yeah. A referee's got to, you get paid to be good enough to know, no, he didn't drive. He didn't lift him. He didn't drive him.
Yeah.
There was nothing he could have done. It wasn't. And the game, it was too big a point of the game to maybe get that one wrong. And that's why, I'm telling you, and I don't know that Florida comes back anyway.
Right.
But what a fun finish it would have been.
Oh, great.
And you and I both knew once they called it, the game was over because Florida wasn't good enough defensively to make another play like that.
No.
So anyway, so here's where they are. They're 4-3.
Yeah.
They're not beating Georgia.
No.
They're 4-4. Look, I think they can get you need 6 to get to a bowl.
It's tough. Okay? They're going to be tough.
They're going to beat Vanderbilt. They'll beat Vanderbilt. But other than that,
got to win one of those coin flip games. FSU, South Carolina, Texas A&M. LSU was one of them. There are 4 coin flip games left, and they're 0-1 in the coin flip games. Yeah, and I don't know if they're coin flip games anymore.
Well, if you're counting A&M and FSU, those are road games.
They're favored. The opposition is favored. Yeah.
And I agree. Again, South Carolina is the one because although they've got way better quarterback, but here's the other thing too. Look, you talk about quarterbacks, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Jaden Daniels, he never looked good to me all year long.
No,
but he was clearly the better quarterback in the game.
yeah, he was.
How many games?
So were the receivers too, Frank, though, in fairness.
And we knew they were good.
Way better.
We knew they were good.
Their top 3 are better than our 1.
So of the 7 games Florida has played,
yeah,
how many games did you walk away thinking the other guy had the better quarterback? Okay.
I'm
Utah,
not answering that.
In fairness, Utah, Cam Rising's really good.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was better than AR was that night.
He had a great night.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Will Levis was better.
Yeah.
Hendon Hooker was better.
Yeah.
This guy they just played.
The USF kid couldn't throw, but he had a great night moving the ball.
He was every bit as effective as our guy was.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. How many games have we out quarterbacked somebody? I can't count Eastern.
We had
Washington.
a terrible game against Missouri, so it's hard to say he was better that day.
Yeah, so
he threw for 67 yards, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right. So when in this day and age, if the other guy out, if everything's
you got to have the guy. You got to have
everything's even remotely even,
right?
And the other guy out quarterbacks you lose.
But that's one of the things that concerns me a little bit about the staff. I want to see improvement. I'm not saying be all world, but I want to see. Hey, this kid's getting better. Hey, that kid's getting better. Hey, you're saying they can't get better because they're no good. I get it.
Well, I'm also saying in that regard, they've only been there 7 games. The staff, they're still learning who these guys are.
Yeah, that's fair.
And they're still trying to. But I'll say this, and again, this will be an unpopular opinion, and I want to be very clear about this.
Yeah,
nobody's rooting harder for Anthony Richardson than me because when he's good, he's so fun to watch.
Sure.
Oh my God, he's fun. That 80-yard run was so, and you knew he was gone because they couldn't tackle him.
Right.
But it wouldn't bother me to see just another guy get just a series or 2 just to see if there's any other hope. Look, I mean, he's a great athlete. He is an NFL athlete because there's not a lot of 6'4", 240s that run that fast.
Nope.
But he sure doesn't look like he can play quarterback in the NFL to me.
It's a good point.
And so we'll see. So anyway, so we're 4-3.
All right.
Georgia next. Off week, and then it gets tough. We'll talk more about Georgia coming up. But good recruiting, not so good on the field. Yep. That's All Things Gators, All Things Orange and Blue. Dan Hicken and Frank Frangie.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, the best in the business, se-ortho.com for all your orthopedic needs. Frank, let's try to have a good week.
You too, Hick. See you, buddy.
All right, man.